Hi guys, Patty from Patty's Crafty Spot, and I'm here to share with you a new project for Crealies. And I created this cute little mini tag book with photo mats along with a shaker cover. So after this video, I do have a full tutorial on how I created this, and it is super fun. You can see all that. And let me just show you real quick the products that I used. So for my binding system, I used the Mini Albums Binding System A. I also used from Big Labels and Tag number 15, as well as number 16. And from Crealies Nest XXL dies, I used the Scalloped Edge, and that's number 56. And journals and planners, I used number 652, the medium pocket die. And I also, from Crealies, I used some of the transparent clear sheets to make my shaker cover. So let's just walk you through. So this is a tiny little album. It measures approximately 5 by 6.5. And like I said, the shaker cover on the front, and I do show you how to go ahead and create that. You open it up, and here is a little pocket. This is made with the medium pocket die. As you see in a lot of my videos, I love to use that. And over here. Now this is made building the page, this pocket, so make sure you check out how I went ahead and created the pockets for the front and the back. And then up here, to hold my tags, I went ahead and created this unique little cutout, and that I made using these labels and tags. And then it just slips back in. And then my photo mats. And then the other side. And then more. You can go ahead and add multiple pages to these if you want. Let me actually show you if I take out my tags. So you can see it has a little unique shape to it. So it's just kind of a fun little element to go ahead and add to the pages. And each page here, including the pocket, is made with just one piece of cardstock. That's the way it's folded. You will go ahead and create the whole thing. So it's kind of neat. So make sure you check out how I did that. Let me get this back in. And over here. And then this one. Really pretty with the butterflies. Then the tag. And then the back page is just another simple little pocket. So if you need a cute little quick fun gift to give somebody, or you just want a little time just to craft and get something completed in a very short amount of time, you can go ahead and make one of these little books. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this. Please check out the tutorial afterwards and have fun, guys. I'll see you in a bit. Alright, so we are going to get started on making this little mini tag book. So what I did was I cut out 4 of the Mini Album Binding System A. So I cut out 4 pieces, and we're going to attach them together. I've already added my score tape. So I only, just so you can see, I only needed to add score tape to 3 of them, because this attaches to this, this to this, this to this, and then these 2 outside ones are for my covers. So I only needed to put score tape on 3 of them, and this is how I'm going to attach them. So I want to make sure everything is lined up perfectly straight. And then I will remove my tape. And that one's done. And now I did get it fairly lined up even here. And keep going. And I just slipped. Ah! Alright, so now this one, I'm going to do it this way. Got it. And then my last one. I like putting it on top like this and lining it up before I stick it down. To me, I just find that I get a better way of keeping it even. So once I know I have it lined up the way I like it, I just hold this side and hope I don't slip. And then I just let that pop up and remove my tape. And then just stick it back down. So there I have all of my binding system together. This is the back side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mark a 1/2 inch and find my pencil. So I'm using the grid or using the dots on my cutting grid here just to mark a 1/2 inch, and I'll show you the couple and then I will pause the video and do the rest off camera. So what I'm doing is everything that's still left showing now, and you could do this before if you wanted to, but I'm just going ahead and making a little mark right there at a 1/2 inch on each side, and I'm going to do that to all my sides because that way when I attach my pages I know exactly where I want to attach them to. So it just gives me a guide. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the rest of these. So I went ahead and I marked a 1/2 inch on all of my flaps, front and back side. So now what I want to do is go ahead and create my pages. So this measures 6.5 inches from top to bottom. If you wanted it shorter, you can always cut it. So I have a 8.5 by 11 inch paper. So I want to make sure that I am 6.5 inches down. So what I'm going to do is grab my scoreboard. And I am going to score at 6.5 inches, which would be my distance from here. And while we're here, so I scored at 6.5 inches, and then my paper itself is 11, so the middle part of my 11 would be 5.5. So now I'm going to go ahead and score. So this is, I have a score line in the middle, and then here, which that is approximately 2 inches up. So this is how I'm going to create my pages. So what I want to do is go ahead, fold on all the score lines and burnish those down. So I have nice crisp folds, making sure everything is pretty much lined up. We're going to go ahead and cut. So what I want to do right now is go ahead and flip this up like this. And this is where, and then fold in half. This is how we're going to create some pockets here and a pocket at the top. So once I have that all done, I'm just going to go ahead and re-burnish. So this is what I have, and it is the same size as my binding system. So I'll be able to attach it just like this, but I need to make a cut first. So if you see when you score, you don't quite line up even though I did score in the middle. It's because of the score bump kind of thing. It kind of throws things off a little bit, and this is a little too wide for what I want anyway, so it was perfect to go ahead and score all this down just like this right now and burnish it down. So what I did was I decided what tag I'm going to use. So I am using a tag from the Big Labels and Tags, and this one is number 15, and I'm using the middle size one. So I went ahead and I just cut out my tag so I get an idea, and I can go ahead and put a tag in the top or the bottom. So what I did was, to figure out my page size, I want a little playroom from side to side, and I need to accommodate the 1/2 inch from my binding system where it's going to attach to the book. So my tag, so I'm going to make this, I think I'm going to go 4.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in my paper trimmer, and I'm going to put it to this side here. I'm going to cut on this side. So I want to keep the folded area together because that's what's going to connect, make sure my pages stay connected. So I'm going to measure over 4.5 inches and cut this off. So let me do that real quick. So I went ahead and just cut that. So now we are at 4.5 inches, and this is the part that came off. And as you see, this side here is still attached. And this is how we're going to attach our pages. So we're going to go ahead and attach them right to our binding system, very similar to this. And then I have my pocket here already made. I don't have to attach anything because it comes already with a pocket. So pretty cool. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to cut out 3 more of these, and I'm going to add score tape to my 3 middle pieces. So let me cut 2 more of these out, add my tape, and I will be back. So one thing real quick I want to do, which I almost forgot, is I want to go ahead and create kind of like a little dip right here for my tags to pull out of. So I am using the Big Labels and Tags number 16, and I am using the, let's see, did I take it out? Oh, I'm using the 3rd one down because I will need the bigger one for my pattern paper. So I'm using the 3rd one down. And I drew a 1/2 inch line down from the top of my book. Let me slide my camera down. So what I did was I measured down a 1/2 inch and drew a line. And on this book now, you're going to have the first 1/2 inch of this is going to be attached to your binding system. So it's really kind of not usable, and you're going to see your binding system in it if you go ahead and cut further over than the 1/2 inch. So I'm just using my grid here, but if you wanted to, you could go and mark a little line a 1/2 inch over. So I have a 1/2 inch down and a 1/2 inch over. So nothing I want to cut into this part here because then I'll see my binding system. And I'm using the, so 1, 2, 3, the 4th one down. I think I said 3, but I'm using the 4th one down of the largest. And what I'm going to do is flip it upside down. And the 1/2 inch mark that I made here, I'm going to put the little corners of this on the 1/2 inch mark. And I'm going to try to go ahead and center this the best I can. I'm not really going to make it perfect, but I'm just going to kind of guess. Because it is such a small area, it doesn't really matter. So when I have it to where I want it, I forgot my score tape. Washi tape. I'm going to go ahead and tape it down. So when I know what it looks, when I think I have it where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and hold it down like that. I'm going to run this through my die cutter. So what I have right now is I just cut this one out like that. So it cut through both pieces. So now I'll have my little pocket. So when I do add my tag to the back part of it, it's going to show. So it's going to be a nice pretty element right there. So go ahead and do that now to your 3 pockets, or you get 3 pages to make pockets like that. So now we're going to make life a little easier, and we're going to go ahead and prep some pieces before we actually attach them to the binding system. So what I did was I went ahead and added my pattern paper to this one here. I also inked my edges, so you're going to want to do this now just to make it easier when you attach your book. So I went ahead and, as you can see, let's see, I think that shows it the best. I went ahead and inked the edges. And I'm using craft cardstock, and I like to use ink on craft cardstock. I just think it looks better. So what I did was I measured over. So this is 4.5 inches wide, and I want to make my pattern paper 1/4 inch smaller. So I cut it down to 4 1/4. And what you're going to want to do, unless you do this as you go and attach, you're going to want to label your pieces. So this will be page 2, and I'm going to go ahead and mark 2 on the back of my pattern paper, because once you measure things out and cut them, they're only going to line up a certain way, and the best way that they're going to line up is to the specific page you cut it for. So that's just a little hint. So I went ahead and marked number 2 on both of those. So the length of this, I did 6 inches down from the top to the bottom, because most of it's going to be tucked under my pocket, so I don't really need to go all the way to the bottom of that one. So what I'm going to do is line my paper up approximately where I think it's going to go. So that's giving me about 1/8 of an inch on this side and 1/8 of an inch on this side. I'm also paying attention to the top part to make sure I'm spaced out evenly there. So what I'm going to do is, once I'm lined up to where I need to go, flip it over. I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to trace inside this box here. Now I can go ahead and remove this. Now because I'm using a smooth die and not something like stitch lines, such as this, it would be a little more challenging, only because the stitch lines would be opposite on the back side, where they don't show as much on the back side of something as they do on the front side. So I'm using a smooth die. So this one here would, so if you're looking at your dies, technically this is going to be the 3rd one down in this set right here. So here's my sizes. So when you're doing kind of like a reversed pattern paper, you actually want to do them opposite of what you would normally make a tag. So on a tag, normally the larger one would be your cardstock, and then the next size down would be your pattern paper. But when you're doing something like this, you work it opposite. So to create the little divot in my original cardstock, I used the smaller of these 2 tags. And now for my pattern paper, I'm going to use the larger of those 2 tags. So I have my trace out here. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and eyeball around my pencil mark of this die. So you can see right there, you can see my pencil mark, and then you can see where I put my die. I'm just going to use a little piece of washi tape to hold it there. So when I have it where I know, I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. Oops. So this is what I just cut out right here, this piece. So I have that, and now I'm going to go over to my 2 and 2. I'm going to just ink this one super fast. And these little prep steps ahead of These little prep steps ahead of time will save you in the end And then when you put it together, it's just going to kind of go right together really fast. Because you're going to have it pretty much ready to roll. Alright, so then what I did, now I'm using like some super thin paper. So unfortunately my glue, if I use the thin paper, my glue is just going to look very lumpy and bumpy. And I don't like that look, so on mine I'm just using some score tape. If I wasn't using such thin pattern paper, I would just glue it on. But because this paper is very thin, it's almost just a tad thicker than tissue paper, I don't want to use glue. So what I'm going to do now is taking my page. Now, like I said, if you're not doing these along individually, you're going to want to go ahead and number them. But I have mine ready. So what I'm going to do is open up my pocket. And I'm going to line it up right where I need to. And again, because I'm using score tape, I can go ahead and attach it. So now I already have my pre-decorated pages. So I'm going to do that to the other two, and then I'll be back and we'll, I think, work on attaching them. But we'll see. I might change my mind when I come back. So I've gone ahead and added my pattern paper to both sides. Now by doing it this way, it's just making it much easier, because if you go ahead and add your pages and you have things glued down, it's going to be hard to, depending on how much your glue smudges over, it's going to be hard to do the pattern paper and make it look even. So this way I thought was the easiest way to make it look like, to make it even and make it look good. So now what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and attach our pages now. So looking at the binding system, we created 3 pages, which are the 3 middle pieces here. So we don't need the back one. That's going to be our back cover rather. So we're going to work from back to front. So we're working on the 3 middle pieces, and we're going to take the back one. So I have the back one right here. What I'm going to do is go ahead and set it down. And what I'm doing is lining it up with a 1/2 inch pencil mark from the top and the bottom. That way I know exactly where it's going to go. And providing you lined it up where it needed to line up, we're going to go ahead and start attaching. So when I have it where I think it's going to fit, I'm going to hold it down. And I think it looks like, you know what, let's do this first, real quick. So just in case your pages aren't quite where they need to be, working on the 3 middle pages, just go ahead from that 1/2 inch mark and just chop off a sliver. So I am chopping off like you can hardly see it. I think that's going to help, especially if your pages aren't quite the exact same size due to all the folding. So I'm just going to chop off a sliver. By a sliver, I mean a sliver. Like, oops, where is it? Like a sliver. Not as much as if you're making a bigger album and you're cutting more of an angle. Just a sliver. So, let's see. So, let's go back now. So now I'm on my last page, lining it up with the pencil marks, top and bottom. And when I think I have it where it needs to go, I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And I'm going to remove the tape from just the one side right now. So I've got that attached, so not the back yet. So this is where we are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over. Now this is where you're going to need to glue a little bit. So I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to flip it over, open it all the way up. I'm going to add a little glue to the side here. Oops, I'm getting camera. So I'm going to add it to the pocket portion. That way I know where I need to stop when I put it up. And I'm just going to add very, very little, like a super small thin bead of glue. And that's just to seal the pockets up. So just gonna, I don't want it to squish out, so I just did that. And make sure I'm closing it back up so that way it's gluing right where I need it. Where if you fold it over this way, it might move a little. So this way I'm just doing it right where I need to. So those glued, and then I'm going to do a little bead of glue across the bottom here. That's going to seal up our bottom pocket. And depending on the glue you use, you should be pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the tape from here and then just bring it all over. So I'm sealing the bottom and I'm touching that part over there. So we are right here. This is where we're at. So now we have our pocket up here, which our tag should fit in. So it'll fit in like that, so it'll be all decorative. And then down here, if you have a photo mat, and I don't know if I have something cut already. Right here is something like, so you have room for a pocket already right there. So you can hold some stuff. So let's go ahead and move on to the next page. So again, same thing. So lining it up to your pencil marks. And now what you can do is you can kind of see if you're even on the bottom. If these two pages here kind of line up even, you should be pretty good to stick it down. So I'm going to go ahead, double check everything. Looks good. So again, I am going to hold this, and I'm only removing the tape from one side, folding that back down. So now we're good here. Open it up, and I'm going to add a little glue to seal my pockets. And get that folded over so I can make sure they seal. And flip it over. And I'm going to seal the bottom. And remove my score tape. So I'm sealing the bottom and the sides. And even with that thin little bit of glue, I still have it seeping out. So make sure you clean all that up. And then now we can do the next page. Again, same way. And the nice thing with this binding system, there's no hard spine on it, so you can maneuver it to stick it where you need to. Oops. I messed that one up. Let's try this again. So I'm lining it up to my pencil mark and making sure my pages are even. There we go, that looks better. Just going to do a little bit. My pages seem to be, the binding system seems to want to keep folding in on itself. Okay, here we go. So now, again, open this one up, seal up my pockets, make sure that one's good, and then now I'm going to seal up the bottom. Remove my score tape. And stick it in. And there we go. So now we have this. So now it'll be real easy. You can just go ahead and cut out a little strip of paper for your bottom part of your pocket. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and cut out the little pieces and attach those to my bottom pockets. And I'm going to cut out pieces from my cover. So let's figure out what size we need for that, and then you can cut those out too. So because my pockets were 4.5 inches, I think I'm going to go ahead and make my covers the same. So I'm going to cut, I need a front and a back on each, front and back. I need a front and a back for the front and back. So I'm going to need to cut 4 pieces, and I'm going to cut those at 4.5 by 6.5 inches and make my covers for that. So go ahead and do that. Cut out the 4 of those at 4.5 by 6.5 and go ahead and cover up your bottom pockets. So I went ahead and I added little bits of the cardstock to the bottom of my pocket, and the way I did that was I had measured over, so obviously we're 4.5 inches and my pockets are 2, so I cut it out at 4.25 by 1 3/4, and I just realized I didn't ink this one, so I'm just going to ink it real quick. And I cut out 4 pieces of cardstock. That is 4.5 by 6.5. So we're going to start off on our front cover. So the best way to do that is I'm going to flip the back around so I can do the front. And that way I'm doing that so I can make sure I'm lined up even. So I can see right here and here if my book is even. Lining it up again with my 1/2 inch little dots that I put on. And when I'm sure I am good and even, I will remove the score tape. So I'm going to hold down like the bottom part of this just to kind of start it, because this one's going to slip. So when I get what I need, I can just do that and then make it stuck. So right here, if you just want to do one, you can only do one. You could do the back and then leave this to make a nice decorative element on your book. You just remember to put your pattern paper on this page before you attach it, because otherwise you're not going to get it under there. So now I'm going to do my back one. So let's see. I'm going to flip it around. This is the back page, so now I'm going to do the front. And I'm going to line it up. And when I have it where I think I need it, again, I'm just going to take a little bit down so I can stick it and then pull it out. So there we go. So now this is what I have. So now if you wanted to do anything else, you could go ahead and do that before you attach all of that. And let's see. I know I'm not doing anything to the back cover yet. I'm not sure about the front. So I can go ahead and attach the back. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to just apply some more score tape to seal that on. So let's do that real quick. And that's just because I know I'm not doing anything special to the back cover. The front cover is yet to be determined. So you can go ahead, again, doing the same thing now. Now this one's easy because you're just lining it up to the other piece that you already stuck down. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove that one so I know I'm lined up to this, and then I can just take this part. Oops. And then just remove the rest of my tape. And then I can just stick that down. And that just adds a little extra thickness to your cover, seeing how it's just cardstock and not chipboard. So we just have that right there. So let me figure out if I'm going to do anything special with this one, and I'll be back. So we're going to try something here. So what I'm using is the Crealies Nestle XXL dies number 56 that have these scalloped edging to them. And I'm going to try to create a shaker cover. So with my top piece here, I am going to go ahead and eyeball where that needs to go. Now I am working with some of the supplies that I currently have in my craft room. For obvious reasons, I cannot go get anything else. So working off the stash. This is why us crafters are considered hoarders, because we should technically have everything we need. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this one out here. Now I haven't made this yet. I am literally making this right now with you guys. So I have that cut out. I need some acetate. I'll have to find that in 1 second. So let me find that and I'll be right back. Alright, I found my acetate, and this is the acetate that I received from Crealies. So let me get a piece out. And that's going to serve as my window. So let me ink those edges real quick. Get that done. I'm inking this with Vintage Photo too, just in case you're wondering on what ink I'm using. So I'm using the Distressed Ink Vintage Photo. And unless you paused it, you had no clue what I just showed you, so right there. I'm trying to work somewhat quickly because my roofer guy seems to show up randomly, and I just want to get this done before he shows up, and then I have to stop recording. So I'm going to go ahead and attach that. So let's add some score tape. Make a little room because I'm crowding myself out. So this is going to create a little window pocket, and I'm going to try to go ahead and create a little shaker on the cover. So we'll see how that works out. And then I want to just go up close because I just want to make sure that my acetate sits nice and close to my frame. And let me cut this down a little. So So I cut it just a 1/16 of an inch smaller than my cardstock. So again, I'm going to line it all up. And I think I'm good there, so attach this. And then I'm just going to remove the tape, score tape from everywhere else. Looks good there. And now what I'm going to do is let's add my pattern paper there. And I probably should have drawn my window first, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. So now on my cover, I'm going to go ahead and add this to the top. So let's see, where's my longer piece? Let's do this again. Actually, I can trim off some of that because of this. So I still have a little score tape left, so there we go. We can do it like this. So this is just the background, so it doesn't really matter too much because it's all going to get covered. So I have that. And then this is going to sit on top just like here. So let me open this up so I can get it. So that's going to go like that. However, I did forget to trace out the whole area, so we're going to do it. Let's see if this will work. So I'm taking my washi tape. I'm going to put it like this. The sticky part is not towards me, or it's towards me, so it's on the back side. So if I line it up right here, and then I'll do it this way. So if I go like this, it'll kind of give me a rough idea where that is. So there we go. So now I'm just going to draw a little line. And my son's home, so I'm going to stop recording for a second. Okay, so let's continue. So I'm just kind of drawing a faint line around here, just so I know where my opening is. So now what I'm going to do is I've cut out some strips of some foam tape, and I have some sticky tape on the back. So it was adhesive ones when I bought it. So I'm just gonna line it up. And then just kind of circle around. Oops. And apparently it's sticking to itself. Let's take it all off. And a little more. Now I'm following around my pencil line, but I'm going to the outside part of my pencil line. So hopefully We are good. So now let's test it out. So just go this way. And I can see a little bit, but I'm not really concerned because I don't really see too much of it. And I might be able to just smush it away a little bit. Okay, let's try that again. Now the only reason you can see it really good right now is just because it's black foam tape. If I had used black cardstock, you wouldn't even see this part. So again, I'm just smushing some out. Let's try it again. And I think I look pretty good right there. So now what I need to do is go ahead and cut out my pattern paper, which again now is going to be tricky because I went ahead and stuck the acetate on it, but let's get that figured out first. So I'm going to cut my pattern paper that is going to be a 1/4 inch smaller than this. So it's 4.5 by 6.5. I'm going to make it 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. Alright, crisis averted. I figured out how to go ahead and do this. So I cut out my pattern paper, which is a 1/4 inch smaller, so it's going to fit perfectly around like that. And I have my cutout saved from when I cut out that center there. So the easiest way to do that is I'm going to just stick a little piece of score tape on this. So this is all tucked in here nice. Then I'm going to lay this over the top, lining it up where I need it to go. I'm going to hold most of it down, and I'm going to remove the score tape from that little center piece, so when I lift it out now, I have exactly where I need to go. So the one thing I am going to do is make a little mark so I know where my tops are. So when I cut it out, it's going to be exact. And then using the next size up from the scalloped dies, I'm going to go ahead and just border this one around it. Get it where I need it to go and use a little piece of washi tape. Let's just stick it down. So when I have it where I want it to go, so that looks pretty good to me. I can go ahead and remove this one now. Doesn't matter at rip because we're cutting that off. And we have that now. And then remove this. Now we have our piece that's going to match. And then we're going to go right over the top. Just like that. So let me add some score tape to my pattern paper and get that stuck down. And there we go. So now let's go ahead and stick this down. So I'm going to line it up where I need it. And remove the tape from one side. And then I'll remove it from the other two. And there we go. Now we have our window, and that would sit right over top of here. So I think we look good. I don't want to go too thick here just because I don't want anything to fall out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see. I need to add score tape to this first. I don't need it on this side, but I need it on these sides here. So this is how it's going to go on. So I'm going to flip it down. Just add the score tape where I need it. Right there. I didn't come all the way over because I have the score tape that's on this side here. The other thing I need to do is go ahead and add some score tape to this part here. Because I want to make sure any of my stuff doesn't fall out. And I'm going to go all the way around my black foam tape. So I have that ready to go, and real quick I'm going to look for some micro beads to add. I have some glitter or sequins that would look nice in here, but the problem is I think it might stick too much to my acetate. So I'm going to see if I can't find in my stash some micro beads that will match the color of this. So I found some micro beads I think are going to match, so it's pretty good. So what I'm going to do first is I want to stick down my inside part of my page. So I'm lining everything up. I feel like I keep moving down. Not too far. Alright. So I'm going to line up. So what do I have here? Alright, so I'm going to remove this piece of score tape here, the bigger piece, to attach my page. So I'm going to line everything up. And hold that there. Alright, so now I'm kind of attached. The one thing with the cardstock is it is a little forgiving, so you can bend a little bit. So let's get this stuff opened up and dump in some. So I want it to bend a little nicer. So I'm going to add a bunch of those, maybe a little more. And then a bunch of seed beads. So now I'm going to remove the score tape from the foam. And now stick a little down. Let's remove it from my cardstock. my page piece. This is probably not the most delicate way of doing this, but it's going to work for me. There we go. That's cute. And it is a little bit sticking because I didn't take any static off of it, but I don't have dryer sheets or anything. If you take a dryer sheet, you can remove some of the static. But I think that part is cute. I know. I think it looks cute with it kind of sticking like it is anyway. It works for me. Cute. So now what we can go ahead and do is, I don't need this anymore. So now it's just a matter of, I want to add a pocket to the front and the back. So let me go ahead and cut that out. That's probably, it's not going to be wide enough for the larger pocket die, so I'm going to use the medium pocket die from Journals and Planners. I'm going to cut 2 of those out for my front and back pockets. So I went ahead and cut out 2 of my pocket dies from my medium, from the medium pocket dies from Journals and Planners, and I added score tape to it. So now we're going to go ahead and attach it down. So I'm going to go ahead and eyeball. I'm turning it sideways just because it's easier for me. So I'm going to come almost all the way down to the bottom, but not quite. So I have that like that. Now I'm going to add my pattern paper first. So I also prepped that with some score tape. So I'm going to line that up. And stick that down. And now I can go ahead and finish attaching my pocket. And the reason I put my pattern paper down first, as you can see, my pattern paper does come over a little bit past the sides of that. So it's just easier to go ahead and do it that way. And I also prepped my pieces for my pattern paper for my pocket. So stick that down. So that side right there is done with its little pocket. And now we're going to do the back. I did go in ahead and added some of my pattern paper to the back to match my front, so those did match up. So again, I'm going to turn it. And I'm lining it up from side to side and then just barely a 1/16 of an inch from the bottom. And then we'll add the paper. Which side is this side? And stick that down. And now the pocket. And then we're going to go ahead and add pattern paper to the pocket. And our book is almost done. So there. So now we open up like this, and then we have our pages. that. So the only thing left now is to go ahead and add some strips of paper on the binding part, so here and here, and then make our tags and our photo mats for our pockets, and we are in good shape. So let me bring you up to speed on what I've done with the book. So I went ahead and I added my pattern paper to the sides, and I did that using, from the mini albums binding system A, it gives you a couple different sizes for the binding, or for the pattern paper. So that is that one right there. And what I did was, if you notice in the other video when I had added this, all my sequins were sticking to my acetate. So I actually pulled it apart. I used undo to go ahead and remove this sticky to take this apart. I was able to pull it apart. And of course, as you know, going to stores now is nearly impossible. So I figured out what I could use for my stash, and ironically for my makeup, I just used some of this. So if you're running short of stuff, just kind of look around what you already have. So I just used some translucent setting powder for my makeup, and I just used my makeup brush to stick it on. So I pulled it apart, and then I just went over it to remove the static. I know you can use baby powder. They have things they make for this. So anyway, I just did that, and I mean, as you can see now, they don't stick. They actually do what they're supposed to do. So I thought that was pretty cool. So on the inside, I did go ahead and made some photo mats in all of my pockets. And then right here, I went ahead and created my tags just to go in the top. And then those just slip right down, just like that. So I have those right there. And that was pretty much it. I mean, you saw me making most of it, and the rest is just basic, simple decorating and stuff. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you are watching this on Patty's Crafty Spot or the Crealies YouTube channel, give each of them a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and until next time, guys, happy crafting. Bye!